Most people think RC trucks are about speed. Quick runs, sharp turns, maybe a crash, and then you reset and go again. That illusion breaks instantly the moment you see a true giant scale build in motion. Because at a certain size, speed stops being the story. Weight becomes the story. Control becomes the story. And suddenly, every input you make actually matters. These machines don't react like toys anymore. They behave like real trucks, slow to start, hard to stop, and unforgiving when you get it wrong. Today, you're about to see RC trucks that push that exact limit. Not just bigger builds, but machines that carry load, fight terrain, and demand real control. And by the time we reach number 1, the real question won't be which one is the biggest. It'll be whether it still feels like RC at all. Number 10. Mercedes-Benz Zetros 6x6. We start off-road, because this is where the illusion of toy disappears first. The Mercedes-Benz Zetros is built for terrain that actively works against movement, and that changes everything about how it feels to control. The full 6x6 drivetrain means every axle is powered, so instead of relying on momentum, it relies on traction. That gives it a completely different personality compared to lighter RC trucks. The brushless motor system, usually paired with 3S or 4S batteries, is tuned for torque, not speed, so throttle input translates into controlled force rather than sudden movement. When it climbs, you can actually see the suspension working to keep each wheel planted. The long travel allows the chassis to flex slightly, absorbing the terrain instead of reacting to it. That's what makes it feel real. It doesn't bounce or skip, it settles into motion. And once it starts moving uphill, something becomes clear. It doesn't hesitate. It commits. In practice, this truck doesn't search for grip. It already has it. And that's where the shift begins. You stop thinking about how fast it can go and start thinking about how much terrain it can handle before it finally slows down. Number 9. MNTGX 26.560 6X 4XLX. Now we jump to a completely different environment. The MNTGX 26540 brings highway realism into RC, and with it comes a completely different type of control. This truck isn't built for obstacles, it's built for precision. Powered by a torque-focused brushed motor with a 7.2-volt system, the movement feels smooth and deliberate rather than aggressive. But what really defines this model is the multi-speed transmission. With up to 3 gears available, the truck can shift its behavior depending on the situation. In low gear, it feels powerful and capable of pulling heavy loads without stress. In higher gears, it becomes smoother and more efficient, perfect for long-distance cruising. And that's where the experience changes. Driving this truck is not about movement, it's about positioning. When you attach a trailer, everything becomes more complex. Turning requires planning. Reversing requires patience. Even stopping requires control, because the weight behind the truck continues to push forward. In practice, this is where RC becomes discipline. You're not reacting anymore, you're managing. Number 8. RC 4WD Beast 266 Military Truck. Now we step into something heavier, slower, and far more demanding. The RC4WD Beast 26x6 lives up to its name, because it doesn't try to feel light. It embraces weight completely. Built with a full metal chassis and often exceeding 20 kilograms, this truck changes how movement looks and feels. The brushless motor system is focused entirely on torque, delivering steady force instead of speed bursts. When it starts moving, you can see the suspension compress under its own weight before it even clears the first obstacle. That's the difference. Movement isn't instant, it's built. The drivetrain ensures traction is constant, and the short gearing keeps everything controlled even under load. In practice, this truck thrives where smaller models fail. Mud, rocks, uneven ground, it doesn't matter. The Beast 2 doesn't try to avoid obstacles, it pushes through them. And that's what makes it different. You don't drive it aggressively. You guide it carefully, because once it commits to movement, stopping or correcting becomes much harder. Number 7. Mercedes-Benz Aros 334 8686 4. Tipper. Now we shift into functional realism. The Mercedes-Benz Aros 3348 represents the moment where RC stops being about movement and starts being about purpose. Powered by a torque-tuned brushed motor and a 7.2-volt system, everything here is designed for controlled strength. The 6x4 drivetrain sends power to the rear axles, allowing it to handle load effectively, especially when used in construction-style environments. But the real difference comes when weight is added. Empty, the truck feels controlled and predictable. Loaded, everything changes. Acceleration slows down, braking takes longer, turning becomes heavier. The leaf spring suspension and metal ladder frame add real mass, which lowers the center of gravity but also increases inertia. And that inertia becomes part of the experience. In practice, this truck is often used for carrying materials like sand or gravel, and the tipping mechanism adds another layer of realism. You're not just driving, you're completing tasks. And once you start doing that, it no longer feels like RC. It feels like operation. Number 6. Cross RC MC8 Mammoth 8x8. Now this is where scale stops being impressive and starts becoming overwhelming. It is both faced and present. The Cross RC MC8 Mammoth doesn't just look big, it feels big in a way that changes how you read movement completely. The full 8x8 drivetrain means every wheel is constantly contributing, so traction is never a question. But what really defines this truck is how that traction combines with weight. Most builds at smaller scale rely on speed to look powerful. In many of the most famous power systems, all new resemblance from tension and workspace caused by death. When it starts climbing over terrain, you don't see struggle, you see progression. The suspension absorbs uneven ground instead of reacting sharply to it, and the long chassis creates a visual presence that makes even simple movement feel significant. In practice, the Mammoth doesn't fight terrain like smaller crawlers do. It doesn't need to. It simply moves through it, and that creates a completely different experience. You're not correcting constantly, you're guiding something that already feels stable. And that's the moment where the scale becomes real. Because you stop thinking about the controls and start watching the machine work. Number 5. Scania R730 8x4 Heavy Truck. Now we move back to structured transport, but at a level where everything feels heavier and more deliberate. The Scania R730 takes everything from earlier road trucks and pushes it further into realism. The 8x4 configuration adds another axle, and that single change has a huge impact on how the truck behaves under load. Instead of weight shifting unpredictably, it distributes evenly across the chassis, which keeps the truck stable even when hauling heavy cargo. Most builds in this class use brushless motor systems paired with higher voltage batteries, giving them consistent torque delivery over long periods. But what really stands out is how the truck reacts to that weight. Acceleration becomes slower and more controlled, braking takes longer, turning requires more space and more planning. And that's exactly what makes it feel real. In practice, this truck shines when towing or hauling, especially over longer distances where consistency matters more than speed. You don't rush it, you manage it. And once you start doing that, you realize something important. This isn't about getting from one point to another quickly. It's about maintaining control the entire time. That's what separates this level from everything below it. Number 4. Tatra 8138X8. Heavy truck. Now we step into something that feels different, not because of size, but because of how it uses engineering. The Tatra 813 doesn't rely purely on brute force to move through terrain. Instead, it uses a suspension system that completely changes how the truck interacts with the ground. Each axle is designed to move independently, which means every wheel stays connected even when the surface is uneven. That creates a level of stability that most trucks simply can't match. The brushless motor system provides steady torque, and the drivetrain distributes that power efficiently. But what really defines this build is how smooth it feels in motion. Instead of forcing its way over obstacles, it adapts to them. The chassis shifts slightly, the suspension adjusts, and the truck continues forward without losing balance. In practice, this makes it incredibly reliable in difficult terrain, because it doesn't depend on momentum. It depends on constant contact. And that changes how you drive it. You don't need aggressive inputs. You need patience. You guide it slowly, and it responds by maintaining stability. That's what makes it stand out. It doesn't overpower terrain. It understands it. Number 3. LEU N983 HDM TT8X8. Now we enter a level where functionality becomes the main focus. The M983 HEMTT is built for one purpose: moving weight. And everything about it reflects that. The full metal construction adds serious mass, and that mass completely changes how the truck behaves. The brushless motor system, usually paired with 4S batteries, delivers strong and consistent torque, but the key here is not power alone. It's how that power is used. When the truck starts moving, it doesn't accelerate quickly. It builds force gradually, and that makes it feel incredibly stable under load. The drivetrain distributes that force across all axles, ensuring that traction is always maintained. In practice, this truck is often used for towing heavy trailers or transporting cargo, and that's where it shines. It doesn't feel fast. It feels capable. Every movement is controlled, every adjustment is deliberate, and every input has a visible effect. This is where RC stops being about how something looks and starts being about what it can actually do. Number 2. MAZ-5378X8 military truck. Now everything becomes heavier, slower, and far more serious. The MAZ-537 is built around raw force, and the moment it starts moving, that becomes obvious. The high-torque brushless system delivers constant pulling power, and instead of focusing on speed, it focuses entirely on strength. The chassis itself adds massive weight, which creates visible inertia in every movement. When it accelerates, it builds slowly. When it stops, it takes time. And when it turns, you can feel the resistance. That's what makes it different. You're not just controlling movement, you're managing momentum. The 8X8 drivetrain ensures that traction is always available, but that traction comes with responsibility. Because once the truck commits to movement, correcting it becomes harder. In practice, this is where the experience becomes serious. Mistakes are not quick and recoverable anymore. They require time and effort to fix. And that's what makes this truck stand out. It forces you to think ahead. It forces you to plan your movements. And once you start doing that, you realize you're no longer playing, you're operating. Number 1. 797 RC. And now we reach the point where everything changes completely. The Caterpillar 797 is not just a large RC truck. It's a full engineering project that exists inside the hobby. These builds are massive, often custom designed, and powered by high-output brushless motor systems paired with 6S or even higher battery configurations. That level of power is not typical in RC. It's closer to industrial-scale performance. The drivetrain can involve multiple motors working together, ensuring that all that force is transferred efficiently. But what really defines this machine is not the power, it's the scale. When it moves, it doesn't feel like something scaled down. It feels like something real, operating at a different size. The suspension is built to handle extreme weight. The chassis is reinforced to maintain structure, and the overall design focuses on stability under load. In practice, these models are capable of carrying actual material, not just moving themselves. And that's where everything changes. Because at this point, you're no longer controlling an RC truck. You're operating a machine that behaves like real equipment. And once you see that happen, the definition of RC completely shifts. Now you've seen it. At some point, these machines stop feeling like something you control and start feeling like something you operate. So tell me, where did that shift happen for you? Because once you feel it, you can't go back.